As the weather starts to cool down around us, and autumn is in full effect, there is no better time for a warm and wholesome dessert. Today, we're going to be making just that. Apple Pie Rollups. Basically, we're going to be taking all the amazingness of apple pie and putting it together in predefined serving sizes. All in all, today we're going to be going through 3 different ways in which we can make this, with varying levels of intensity of effort. Stick around to find out, but for now, I think it's time for us to move on.
Starting off today, you'll begin with 2 apples. I'm going with Granny Smith, just for a bit of tartness. And using a peeler, you'll pull towards you around the apple until completely skinned. Once you're through that, chop into quarters and then further into slivers of about 1/8 of an inch thickness. After the apples come the lemon, whose acidity will help keep the filling from becoming overly sugary. Zest off just a pinch, and then cut in half in preparation for juicing. On the stovetop, bring a large pan to a medium-high heat and melt 3 tablespoons of butter before dropping in your apples along with half a cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, about 1 tablespoon of water, the juice of half of a lemon, then a sprinkling of lemon zest and a pinch of salt. You'll mix all of this together before letting simmer away for 10 to 12 minutes, at which point your apples will become considerably softer and surrounded by syrupy goodness. Now, for the most satisfying part of the recipe. Honestly, that part makes the whole recipe worth it. We're going to be using this croissant dough for 2 of the 3 techniques. First is oven baked, which has us spreading about half a teaspoon of caramel sauce onto the dough. Now if you have a sweet tooth out there, it may be tempting to put more, but believe me, a little goes a long way in this case. Now, if we bring on over our delicious sauteed apple filling, you can place in 2 apples and begin rolling forward delicately to shape the croissant. Some of these are going to turn out prettier than others, but that's okay. Regardless, into the 375 Fahrenheit degree oven they go for about 10 to 12 minutes. And in the meantime, let's work on the other techniques. Pan frying is the next technique, which means trying to thin out the croissant as much as possible to speed up its cook time. A little bit of flour and patience with a rolling pin will help make it near paper thin. The next step is same as before, a tablespoon of filling, half a teaspoon of caramel, and roll forward, this time trying to emphasize a complete seal as much as possible. The less sugar that is able to leak out the sides, the better. Sugar in hot oil burns incredibly easily. Set these to the side and reach for the final wrapper, egg rolls, which I personally was the most excited about when planning for this recipe. At this point, you've had a bit of practice rolling, so this is a piece of cake to you. But also the sharp edges of the egg roll definitely help. For this, you'll fold 2 corners in, and then take the bottom corner and reach across and pull back, before tucking and rolling forward. Finally, you'll secure it all with just a dab of water for adhesion. Once all are rolled and ready, you'll shallow fry, in canola oil, in a rimmed sauté pan, on medium heat for about 3 minutes, making sure to turn often and check for browning. When they're crispy enough for your liking, evacuate to a wire rack and sprinkle with a bit of cinnamon sugar. At this point, you can see why rolling these as tight as possible is necessary. 1 or 2 of my rolls caused a bit of leakage, and you can see the sugars floating about and cooking on their own. After making it through all the egg rolls, I had to swap out the oil and quickly clean off the burnt sugar. In the now clean pan, I have a bit more of that canola oil at a medium-low setting. We want to be very careful with these delicate croissant rolls. These will only take about 1 to 2 minutes before you'll evacuate them to the rack and hit with a bit of cinnamon sugar. And with that done, that wraps up about all of the work of this recipe. Let's see what these roll-ups taste like. Naturally, these are served with a scoop of ice cream, as any proper apple pie should be. And go ahead and add a little bit of a caramel drizzle if you're feeling fancy too. Between these 3 techniques, the overarching taste is relatively the same. It's apple pie. But the key points of each are that the oven baked were the easiest to make in large quantities, the fried croissant dough had the gooeyest doughy center, and lastly, my personal favorite, the egg roll had the crispiest exterior while maintaining that delicious syrupy consistency within. If I had to choose any one of the 3, I'm definitely going with the egg roll. Hey, if you've made it this far, that means that you've enjoyed this video. Go ahead and do one better by liking, subscribing, and sharing this channel with your family, your friends, your neighbor, your book club. You get the idea. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.